Villagers loot a Chinese influencer's fish pond. Shanghai sees business closures, layoffs, and rising unemployment. Student protest erupts over phone confiscation. Chinese security firms close branches. Recently, fitness influencer Li Weigang shared a video on social media explaining that he had spent 22,000 yuan to rent a fish pond in Jingfeng Village, Hunan Province, hoping to enjoy the experience of fishing. However, on the day he was supposed to drain the pond and catch the fish, a large number of villagers rushed in and took all the big fish, leaving him with a loss of 17,000 yuan. Initially, Li Weigang, out of personal interest, decided to rent the pond to experience the life of a fisherman. He said, "I wanted to shoot some videos of fishing and share the fun with everyone." On the first night, when Li checked the pond, he found some villagers sneaking in to fish. He generously let it slide without saying much. On the second night, the pond was surrounded by villagers again. One of them asked if they could catch small fish and shrimp. Li, still being generous, said, "It's fine to catch small fish, but you can't take the big ones." However, the villagers ignored him and started specifically catching the more expensive grass carp and black carp. On the third day, Li and his friends went to the pond to fish, only to find the villagers fully prepared, catching fish and putting them in their bags. Some villagers even came up to him, asking for fish, insisting they only wanted the big ones. The greed was overwhelming. Li said, "We had just started draining the water when a crowd of villagers rushed over with buckets and nets, scooping fish from the pond. He and his friends tried to stop them, but the crowd was too large, and the situation got out of control." A witness described how the villagers quickly took the best spots and grabbed the biggest fish. Li described the scene as complete chaos. Some villagers jumped into the muddy pond, quickly grabbing the big fish and putting them in their containers. Li said helplessly, "We couldn't do anything. There were just too many people." In a matter of minutes, almost all the big fish were taken, leaving only a few small, worthless fish swimming in the water. In the end, Li's team could only catch some small fish and a few white carp, which weren't worth much. As more and more villagers joined the frenzy, Li and his friends had no choice but to give up. They retreated to the shore and could only watch as the big fish were taken away. In the end, Li tallied the weight and value of the remaining fish. After spending 22,000 yuan to rent the pond, the fish left were only worth 4,800 yuan. Li said, "After doing the math, I realized I lost 17,000 yuan. It's really frustrating." The incident sparked outrage among his followers and netizens, with many criticizing the villagers in the comments. Some said, "Now the whole country knows that this village can't afford to eat fish." Others were angry at how generous Li had been, saying, "No one in the village is going to thank you. Most will be upset that they didn't catch as much as the others. Even if you gave away all the fish, they'd still complain that it wasn't enough." Furious netizens even dubbed Jingfeng Village as the fish-stealing village. Recently, there's been news from within the industry that many TV stations, radio stations, and artistic groups in Shanghai are unable to pay their employees. They've told TV hosts, theater troupes, and opera troupes to go out and find their own ways to make money. Some hosts have even broken down in tears during live streams, saying that since their TV stations can't pay them, they've turned to selling products like ducks, sea cucumbers, and red wine to make a living. The real economic situation in Shanghai is not looking good. Many people are losing their jobs, and even state-owned enterprises are laying off workers and cutting salaries. Most small businesses are barely holding on, teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. According to statistics, in the first half of this year alone, 12,000 companies in Shanghai have closed, leading to significant job losses. Big names in tech like IBM and SAP have also begun layoffs, with thousands of employees being let go. Even highly educated individuals like graduates from prestigious universities can't escape unemployment, let alone regular working-class citizens. Restaurants that used to be packed with people at mealtimes now stand largely empty. Many companies that once occupied the luxury office buildings in Shanghai have shut down or moved out, leaving the offices mostly vacant. The economic downturn is affecting everyone. Businesses are closing, downsizing, or relocating, and even demand for simple things like lunch deliveries have been cut in half. Many former business owners and even college graduates have turned to food delivery services like Didi to make ends meet. People are saying that in Shanghai, finding a job with weekends off that pays on time is becoming extremely difficult. The future is full of uncertainty, and most people are trying to save as much as they can, spending less where possible. But saving money requires having money in the first place, and for many families in Shanghai, making ends meet is a struggle. Those who have lost their jobs are being hit the hardest. One woman's husband was recently laid off, and her family immediately plunged into a financial crisis. They haven't received severance pay yet because the case is still going through arbitration, and they don't know when or how much they'll get. In the meantime, they have to pay over 6,000 yuan a month for their mortgage and to take care of 2 children, leaving all the financial pressure on the wife's shoulders. She's filled with anxiety and uncertainty about the future. This woman is also finding it extremely difficult to get by. After paying the mortgage, her children's tutoring fees, insurance, property fees, and everyday expenses, there's nothing left. She said, "The weight of life is suffocating, especially for those of us with mortgages and car loans." A netizen pointed out the root cause. TV stations used to make enough money from advertising, but now businesses are being stifled by excessive regulations. The free flow of funds is restricted and ads are limited. They're being squeezed from all sides. Shanghai, one of China's direct-controlled municipalities, is also the second-largest port city and one of the most developed cities in the country. It's a center for finance, trade, commerce, and manufacturing. Yet, even in Shanghai, things are falling apart. Another netizen lamented, "Even Shanghai can't hold on anymore. The magical city is now just an illusion." On September 5th, a student protest broke out at Nanning College for Vocational Technology in Guangxi due to the school's ban on cell phone usage. According to multiple students, that evening, security guards and instructors forcibly entered the dormitories, attempting to confiscate students' phones. During this process, several instructors allegedly used violence against a student who refused to hand over their phone, sparking outrage among the students. They rushed out of their dorms and gathered in the hallways, protesting the unreasonable school policy and chanting, "Refund, refund." Ultimately, their protest thwarted the school's plan to confiscate the phones. Many students reported that the school had not communicated the phone ban adequately and had not issued any formal notice beforehand. Students were angry and confused by the sudden ban, viewing it as an infringement on their personal freedom and privacy. A third-year student who wished to remain anonymous said, "We're adults, our phones are private property, and the school has no right to confiscate them without our consent. They didn't notify us in advance, they just claimed it was an order from higher-ups and started taking our phones," said Zhang, a second-year student. "They had a very tough attitude, so of course we pushed back, and everyone came out to stop them." Security guards even threatened to deduct points or issue disciplinary penalties to students who didn't voluntarily surrender their phones. At this point, more and more students left their rooms, quickly gathering in the dormitory corridors and stairwells. Within minutes, the area outside the dorm building was packed with angry students, chanting slogans like, "Oppose violent enforcement, give us back our phones." One eyewitness said that several emotionally charged students got into physical confrontations with the security guards and instructors, with both sides pushing each other. As the protest intensified, the school brought in more security personnel to try to calm things down, but the students' protest only grew stronger. The protesting students demanded a reasonable explanation from the school and called for the phone ban to be lifted. A first-year student said, "We understand the school wants to create a better learning environment, but handling it this harshly will only cause more resentment." At the same time, some students raised the issue of refunds, arguing that the school's actions had disrupted their normal learning and daily life. They demanded compensation for the inconvenience caused by the new rules. One student said passionately, "We paid to study here, not to endure such strict management." In response to the protest, the school issued a statement via its official WeChat account in the early hours of September 6. The statement said the action was part of upholding school rules and maintaining a good learning environment, but acknowledged that there had been some missteps in enforcing the policy. The school promised to listen to student feedback, facilitate more communication, and handle the situation appropriately. However, the statement did little to quell the students' anger. Many students insisted that unless the phone ban was lifted and the school issued a public apology, they would continue their efforts to defend their rights. One student representative wrote on social media, "We don't need a vague statement, we need concrete actions and real changes." Many netizens supported the students' protest. The topic quickly trended on Weibo. One commentator wrote, "Students have the right to speak up for their rights. This kind of unreasonable policy should have been opposed long ago." Another said, "The school should respect the students' privacy and freedom. Their management style is too rigid." According to a report from Yicai on September 6, several securities firms have begun scaling back their branch operations. Amid industry-wide digital transformation and cost-cutting efforts, some branches are disappearing. This is due to a decline in both revenue and profits for many large operating branches in the first half of the year. Based on announcements, several securities firms, including Shanxi Securities, Huatai Securities, Pacific Securities, Everbright Securities, and Tianfeng Securities have issued notices about branch closures this year. Everbright Securities and Huatai, for example, have both announced branch closures. Everbright Securities alone shut down 10 branches in the past 3 months. Pacific Securities closed 3 branches in late August, and Shanxi Securities announced on September 4th that it would close 2 of its branches. Before this, other securities firms made similar moves. Hongta Securities, Caitong Securities, Western Securities, and Huan Securities have all announced the closure of 1 or 2 branches since the start of this year. Why are so many securities firms closing branches? One branch manager previously explained that the number of high-frequency trading clients has been decreasing, and offline marketing efforts have been hampered in recent years. As a result, traditional business income at branch offices have seen a significant decline. A netizen commented, "The securities business is becoming harder to run. Besides layoffs and salary cuts, they're starting to shut down branches. An era has passed, and the entire industry is shrinking."